right, we're going to get started. This is a regular scheduled board meeting for Edgewood City Schools. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Here.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Here.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Present.
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Here.
Mr. Michael Pressler is absent today.
Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Fussnecker, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Yes. God, we just ask that you be with us tonight as we make decisions about our students and our staff and our administration. That you would cover this meeting, give us the discernment and knowledge we need to do what's best for our kids and our community. We just ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We'll look for a motion for the approval of the agenda as amended. So moved. Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second? Second. Mr. Pressler. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Next we have presentations from the City of Trenton.
Thank you, sir.
We have our tech director behind you if you need any assistance.
Yeah, thank you.
There we go. Okay.
Would you like us to come down or?
We have it on our thing.
It's on our computers.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you should have it on your computers as well. I just have a couple notes on my slideshow here.
I think it's underneath there.
Yeah, it is.
There we go.
It's also in the computer.
All right. Yeah. So thank you, school board members, for allowing me to present this evening. Tonight I'll give an overview of some development agreements originally passed between the Edgewood School District and the City of Trenton back in 2004 that I believe and other city staff and administration believes present a good partnership opportunity to bring some amenities and fund some infrastructure improvements that will benefit both Trenton residents and Edgewood families. And that term partnership opportunity is usually code for I'm going to stick my hand out and ask how much you want to contribute for the partnership. And I won't promise I won't do that in the future, but this particular agreement is no additional funding required from the school board or would be going additionally to the City of Trenton. And that's because of some of the particulars of the agreements that existed back in 2004 and the original, how the Ohio Revised Code 5709 was written back in 2004. It's since changed, so this is a unique opportunity just because of that window that the original agreement was passed in. So there is, again, no funding request involved in this presentation. So the presentation is about the RID agreements. RID stands for Residential Incentive District. It's very similar to TIF, which is tax increment financing, so you might know a little bit about that. But I will break it down in a pretty understandable way, and feel free to interrupt me and ask some questions. I was told to keep it brief, so we'll be out by breakfast. So incentive district agreements, what are they? So there are specific parcels of land for which the normally effective tax levies do not apply. So instead of paying into the fire, police, or school levies, the equivalent amount of tax dollars are redirected towards specific infrastructure, safety, or public amenities. Since it often takes years for new build property taxes to accumulate, RID agreements last 30 years and are often tied to large debts to pay for roads and utility improvements. And now, where are they? In Trenton, we have several RIDs that are also in the Edgewood School District. These are Quail Crossing, Maple View, Centennial Run, Villa Court, and portions of Elk Creek, that reserved portion, that nicer part. So these are some nicer neighborhoods that were originally approved in 2004, but some of them, as you know, didn't really get built out until 2012, 2013. They provide incentives for those higher value subdivisions to be built, and also planned for a bond issuance to extend State Route 63 from Monroe into Trenton. and I'll have an image of that later on here. The particulars of the agreement were that 30% of the gross receipts from that neighborhood are paid to the Edgewood City Schools. So Treasurer Bowers will issue an invoice to the City of Trenton. The City of Trenton will pay that 30%. We've also asked the county that they begin to split that beforehand down. Julie Lepsky seems to be accommodated. We didn't get a true confirmation, but we do know that they do that in the City of Hamilton. So in the future, they should be splitting that off so that Patty doesn't have to invoice me. But she has gone back, and those funding, those invoices have lined up with what they should be. So the remaining 70% then is set aside in the city-held special revenue fund. I've got some pictures of those subdivisions here. So Villa Place, Quail Crossing, Elk Creek Reserve, and Maple View, Centennial Run are also there. There was an interruption in this plan. So shortly after the agreement, the City of Monroe approved the Lakeview subdivision, which blocks State Route 63's extension into Trenton, ending the project. So you can see here in the bottom, the middle, there's State Route 63. It ends in this Lakeview Drive and Daisy Drive, and all of this is a subdivision. So essentially, the plan was that State Road 63 would cross west over the river and then link up with Woodsdale, bringing additional commerce and traffic into Trenton. But the City of Monroe has their own planning department, and they controlled that territory, and that was planned to be a subdivision. So the State Route 63 extension that originally the agreement was written for is no longer feasible. Additionally, because of this, the funds still accumulate and cannot be spent for 11 years unless public use terms are amended. So the term originally, State Route 63, the term that we're asking to amend is a little bit broader. So what now? The fund currently totals $4.5 million and will accumulate $1.4 million each year, and that is after the schools are issued their payment of 30%. Trenton issued ordinances back in 2022 to expand the potential uses of the RID dollars to any public infrastructure, safety, or amenity improvement. Our auditors check very closely. We cannot pay staff through these items. We can't purchase, computer equipment. We can't. There's a very narrow, specific list of items that we can use it on. So public infrastructure, safety, and public amenity improvement that specifically benefits those neighborhoods are the applicable use categories. So we're asking the school board to affirm those amendments and partner with the City of Trenton to use the city funds in 3 major projects. The first is the engineering plans for Wayne Madison Road widening. The second is design and build for the community center construction. And the third is public park upgrades to include a dog park and splash pad. So I'll mention the engineering plans. We're planning on budgeting $150,000 for the widening of Wayne Madison Road. That is at least from West State Street to the roundabout. That's the portion of the road that is entirely within the City of Trenton. And then the engineers would give us our right-of-way acquisition estimates and do the actual planning that then the road workers would need to respond to a bid. This is also on the OKI, that is the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Fund for Transportation Improvements. They're federally funded and they collect local matches to issue funding for the actual improvement, not just the engineering. Unfortunately, on that list, we're a little bit down the line on. So we're in the 2030s on their list for that. However, the hope is we have engineering plans. They're quite specific. We issue those to the OKI fund in the county. They would then push up the timeline for the expansion. Additionally, community center design and construction, as well as the dog park and splash pad that I'm sure y'all's families have been asking about. They've definitely been asking us. And that's really the end of the presentation. But I'd be happy to take questions, and I'll leave Kelly my cards again.
Sir, what does the expansion of Wayne Madison look like? When you say expansion, are we talking additional lanes, or are we talking just making it wider? What exactly does that look like?
So our expectation is 2 lanes each way, at least from West State Street to the roundabout. Now, on the OKI plan, it is from West State Street all the way down to the Great Miami River. And some of those portions have already been expanded, but they want, in the OKI plan, it is 2 lanes each way.
And you said you're allocating $150,000 to do that?
No, this is for the planning and engineering of just West State to the roundabout.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that doesn't actually include your
It doesn't,
construction?
no, it does not include the construction. We have to do that first, and then the hope is we issue those plans to the county engineer and OKI fund, and then they move us up on that priority list, and then find out what actual amount of local match we would have to issue.
And then the community center, where is that community center? Where?
So we're still expecting that to be located in Marconi Farm. That
Okay,
there
so
is a development that is underway in the PUD process for that.
And then the public parks and the dog park and the splash pad, where is that?
The splash pad and our dog park are both in the city's 2050 plan. They are in the Parks Master Plan. The splash pad, we do know specifically where in Community Park that will be. The dog park is also located in Community Park for the recommendation, but there are some other places that might suit the community better. But the splash pad certainly Community Park.
When you say community park, you're talking about Trenton Park up here?
Yes, Trenton Park on the east side, and then it would be essentially between the amphitheater and sort of the parking lot.
Did you say that was 2050?
It is in the Trenton 2050 plan, but Parks Board is currently choosing the feature. Yeah, they're choosing that currently.
Okay.
Do you guys currently have any other engineering plans or anything going on for our infrastructure within the city?
In that PUD that we're talking about, the Marconi Farm, there is currently a traffic study that's out. There will likely be some intersection improvements on West State Street. I know there's plans to cut down on those curb cuts that are on the north and south side, really, of West State. And additionally, we are budgeting a pretty large street paving program. It's about $600,000 this year. In terms of true expansions, nothing outside of those areas.
So the 30% that's coming back to the school, it says the fund total is $4.5 million and accumulates $1.4 million each year after the schools are issued their payment of 30%.
Yeah.
So just doing my math on that, that's what, roughly $2 million, just shy of $2 million. How do we see that money? When does that money come to us?
So those are on the county settlement sheets. They're technically public records, but you do have to create a login for the auditor web portal. Patty and I have access to that. She can see my tax settlements, and I can see hers. You'll go to the auditor, it's like a share file site. You can see every single school district, all of their property taxes, every single city, township, all of their property taxes. And she knows certain categories in the Trenton side that is Quail Crossing RIT. It'll say $310,000. She knows she's due 30%. She'll issue me the invoice for 30% of that. This past year, they received $1,069,000.
So you're saying this is already ongoing? This is already?
Yes, yeah, the actual funding is ongoing. Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
sticking out my hand.
No, well, I thought you were saying that this was something, if you started dipping into this money, we were gonna start dipping into this money. We're already actually seeing it, correct?
Yes, we get it.
Okay.
What he's talking about
It's-
is the set aside money. As you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the money that was earmarked for the 63 extension is what's being put in the pot, if you will, because of other projects being complete.
And there's still another 30% of that money that comes to us, correct?
Yes, you always get that. Yes.
So once you start drawing the money, we should expect to be able to start invoicing you the money if you're using it for other projects.
No, we already invoiced, so they get that 1.4 million, we get the 30% of it based on the agreement that we have.
I got you.
This has
Okay.
been going on for 19 years.
This is the same grid that we just saw back in
Yes.
December, January.
Yes.
Okay.
We are not made whole on this one.
No. Yeah, the original agreement, again, these were the nicer subdivisions. You usually get between 60 and 65% of property taxes. Again, the way 570940 was written back then, it actually gets removed from your tax duplicate. So you can say to the state on your funding formula, we didn't get as much property taxes as we expected, and they will kick in some portion of the difference. I don't actually know the state funding formula, but I do know that they can kick in some portion of the difference.
So what do you need from us for you to be able to do this?
Just the approval of the amendment. So, again, the portion of that original agreement was that you're allowing this to pay for the State Route 63 extension. The amendment is to remove that language and add the language that is currently in front of you, which is public infrastructure, safety, and amenity improvements. And it talks a little bit more specifically about that.
So could you explain what a special revenue fund is?
Yes. So the city has three main types of funds. The general fund, which the schools also have a general fund. You can use it on salaries, public works, water, really anything. The enterprise fund, which is water, sewer, and refuse, which we can only use on water, sewer, and refuse-related items, and special revenue funds, which are created for a specific purpose that is not business-related and is not general government-related. An example of a special revenue fund would be our police levy. So our police levy is not a business, nor is it general government. We went to the voters and asked for money for a specific purpose, and it's actually limited to personnel. We really can't use it on building a police station or police levy. So we can only then, it's a special purpose, sorry, I'm circling. It is a special purpose that we can only use for that item that it was originally sent for to the voters for. And our auditors will come in and prove that, hey, the city manager is not being paid out of the, Fund 218, our special revenue fund. The city manager is, not making his car allowance out of the fire levy fund. It's just for that specific purpose. And this special revenue was created really to pay for public infrastructure improvements, which were defined as State Route 63 extension.
And that's what you need us to amend.
Yes.
To release these funds.
Yes. Otherwise, they will be released in 11 years, and state statute says to the Trenton General Fund.
Okay, you said something in lines of 2030 with the OKI.
Yep.
That's where you fall on the list for any type of assistance from them.
It's actually in the 2030s, unfortunately.
2030.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, I'm not on that board.
But you also mentioned that if you had the plans for this, you could possibly be moved up that list.
Yes, and we're looking at 2028 to 2032 in that time frame. There is one item that is in the city of Trenton that is receiving a small amount of OKI funding in 2026, and that's some East State Street improvements. It's only like $250,000, but that would be a joint effort between the city of Trenton, the county, and OKI. And between you and I, we know we need it before the end of the 2030s.
So if we agreed to allow y'all to do this, then the public park upgrade, the dog park, the splash pad, I understand the engineering Wayne Madison, that's gonna take a little while, but these other projects, how quickly do you think that we would see those things actually develop?
The splash pad is unfortunately still in Parks Board. They expected approval this month. I need to circle back with them, but we certainly plan on completing that next year. That will be.
So this is, we're talking within a few years.
Yes, certainly.
All this stuff.
Splash pad next year, dog park, that is the next big item on their agenda. I believe all the Parks Board members had that as a priority. And actually the engineering for Wayne Madison will also be done in the year that we budget for it. The actual expansion, that's the question.
And that's because that's pretty much out of your control. That would be a state project is what we're thinking.
Depends on the total amount that the engineer tells us it is. If it's sub $5 million, we can take steps to issue parts of that, internally. But yeah.
So probably the first thing we would see as a community that could be done with this money would be your community center design and construction.
No, the splash pad will be done. I will be speaking with Parks Board after this meeting. The community center design and construction will be a little bit after the splash pad.
Okay. Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We have one more presentation, also from the city of Trenton. Chief of Police, Mr. Carr.
How are you, sir?
Doing good, how you doing?
Cold? Fat?
Feel the same way.
I still drag myself to the gym in the morning. Ooh, it's rough some days. So, two topics that I would like to speak to you about. First one is we have a system, notification system in the city of Trenton. It's called Civic Ready. I've spoken to the superintendent about this before. She's very open to it, but I wanted to present it to the entire board so you all understood what I was asking for, and I'm not asking for money, to be clear. So what I would like to do is when the school board, the school system, the Edgewood school system, you have final forms that have to be turned in before the end of the year. Before the start of the school year, before students come to school. We would like to piggyback on that a little bit and provide everyone in the school district an opportunity for us to provide them with emergency notification. It's purely voluntary. They can sign if they want to. If they don't want to, they don't have to. But some of the things, we can send out text messages and email. They still have pager listed here, but I don't think anyone has a pager any longer. Voicemail in extreme circumstances. But we need to collect the contact information for everyone in the school district, everyone in the city. It's up on the city website, if anyone. And we do have some people that have already signed up for this service, lack of a better term. We could send out emergency alerts related to specific hazards, evacuation, shelter in place, boil water, road closures, water main breaks, serious crashes, or anything that would occur within our community that someone, whether they live in the city of Trenton or they live outside the city of Trenton in a township, if we had the contact information and we knew of a particular circumstance or something that was significant, we can push that information out to all the families in the district, which we think that would be extremely helpful in a situation. God forbid we have a train derailment, a chemical leak. That's one of the first ways we're going to push that out to everyone, is to stay away from the area. Again, knock on wood, pray that never happens, but there are occurrences that do take place. If we have a severe storm that came through and power's out, or a particular area is affected, we'd like to be able to push that information out to as many people as we could, based here locally in Trenton. So we will be providing the information to the school district, and however you all could disseminate that information for the voluntary sign-up would be great. But I wanted to address the board so you understood what we were looking for, as opposed to just seeing this email like, what the heck is this? What am I signing up for? Any questions about that particular topic?
How would we do that, Kelly?
Is that something
Typically you can do that with partnerships of cities, and that should be legit. So how we would do that is on final forms, just like you ask parents questions, do you want to opt in for this? That's how it would work. And then that information would go to the city.
And whatever they provided us,
We can double check it. I really don't think so.
My only concern was maybe violating some privacy. I mean, obviously they would be doing it on a voluntary basis.
yes.
So
I mean,
they
maybe
would
that.
opt in, so you'd ask them, do you want this service? And then I would ask them to write that information down of whatever you need to join
It's just
that
contact
alert.
information. It's not personal identifying.
It's just a way to get it out to families. So
You can't
I
use
don't
it to
see that
serve a
being an
warrant,
issue.
right?
We're not
I'm sorry,
sharing.
ma'am?
You can't use it to serve a warrant or anything.
No.
Gary's worried about
No.
the warrant.
I'm not going to ask why he's particularly worried about warrants.
I stay out of Trenton.
But no, ma'am, we have other methods to do that, and I would certainly not betray the trust of the residents for that
That's
purpose.
just our safety. It should not be an issue. We'll run it back.
So we just get, like, they give you a phone number or a text number, and you don't know who you're sending it to, it's just a mass text.
Well,
And
You
know,
would
that's a good
ask them,
question.
do you want to opt in? And then
Yes.
you would have them give you the number
Yes.
that they're opting in for, so that
Yeah.
all that information's in that category. You're not sharing any of the directory information
No.
with the center.
Okay.
No, we are not sharing this information, selling it, providing it to anyone. It would not be used for any other purpose other than an emergency contact.
And students would be able to put in more than one number, like if I wanted to be contacted and my wife, I'd
Yes.
be able to use 2 numbers for
Yes.
my daughter.
Yes.
I think it sounds great.
It's a nice service to
Oh, I think
families,
it
yeah.
sounds great,
I
also.
think it's awesome.
Yeah, the city is, there's different components to it, what the city is utilizing through this company, but this is the component that best fits the police department, emergency services needs. It'll work out, it's like any other program, you only get out of it what you put into it, so as much, contact information as I can obtain, to push something out to anyone, I would certainly like that opportunity to be able to do that, just so as opposed to using other forms of social media for people in the Trenton community to communicate with one another.
We know what that.
I'll just leave it at that.
And it's a free service.
It
What
is
other,
free.
what other free services do you have for us? We'll flip that script.
That is free. And it will be factual information, so.
There you go.
I like factual information,
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
like the other kind.
Yes, ma'am. It is entertaining to read,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Depends on the reader.
It is.
Sometimes not.
So we all take our turns in the barrel on that website. So anyway, moving forward, is there any other questions about that? Any other questions? Okay. The other topic was just the SRO agreement, and I came into Trenton as the police chief after the negotiation and the SRO agreement was signed. I think this is our 5th school year in agreement with the Edgewood School District for a full-time SRO in the primary school. And it is the 5th school year that the same officer will be assigned to that school, which I am perfectly fine with. The pay or the reimbursement for that officer, this will be the 3rd year that the pay is the same as the previous years. So I'm sure you all understand contractual agreements with the unions that the salaries are going up on a yearly basis, yet the money that I'm recouping from the school district is not. I am perfectly fine with that at this point in time. I just wanted to address the school district so there's no miscommunication on anything, on any social media websites. I am very pleased with the job that our full-time officer is doing in the school, have 0 issues whatsoever. In fact, I've been doing this a long time, and I can say as far as Officer Rose goes, anytime I have asked him to do anything or assigned him to do anything, it is done in a quick and proficient manner, and that he just takes care of business, and it's nice to not have to worry about anything and know that you have an
There's a lot
officer.
of trust there too. You know,
Yes.
the fact that he has served 5 years,
Yes.
trust with our staff, trust with our families,
Yes.
and certainly our children, that's,
Yes, yes.
can't replace.
Yes. It was also brought to my attention by some members of my staff that when the negotiations and the agreement first took place, it was with different board members, different superintendent, and the agreement was we would have a full-time officer there for 3 to 5 years, and then we would revisit that agreement. The MOU that you have in front of you tonight is a 1-year extension that will complete the 5-year obligation that was agreed upon back in 2020. I believe the first year that we had our full-time SRO in the primary school was calendar year 2020, school year 2020-2021. So this would complete that obligation for the City of Trenton Police Department. However, to be clear, and I have said this to other people, if there is not a suitable replacement, the same officer will continue to go into that school. I need to weigh the opportunities for other officers who may want to fulfill that role, and I also need to weigh the reimbursement, which would, again, not a problem this year, but down the road, we're probably going to have to discuss.
I
Yes,
kind
sir.
of wanted to ask a little bit of something about this reimbursement. Do we get a reimbursement for our county?
We do get some grant money.
It's not, it's only like $13,000 to $16,000. It's not,
$16,000,
it's not very much at all.
But is this
That's not
something
per
they would be
officer.
eligible to do?
I don't know if they can apply for grants.
Can we find out what grant that is?
Well, it's through.
Is the county doing this,
No,
or
no,
are we
no.
doing this?
No.
This is through our state and federal grant dollars, so it's based on our enrollment. There is no additional dollars we can ask for. It's part of what pays for our Title I, our special ed, our safe, and this is called wellness grant. So it's not open to public, it's to public schools, not to other jurisdictions.
Now, I can tell you, I have seen on our invoices from the county where there is something on there where they reduced something for a grant that they have. I don't know what that is. I can
Okay.
reach out to Richard Jones and ask, but
Well, I mean, I'd like to share that with the city of Trenton if they're eligible to get that reimbursement money, is kind of the direction I was going.
dig into that.
So you said that
Or they
was,
can contact about what's happening.
Yeah.
so that's $16,000 a year, that's roughly
$16,427.
So roughly $4,000 per officer
Correct.
rebated back.
It's
to
not
us.
much at all.
Yeah.
It's still noticeable.
$4,000.
But what you're saying is that the money is what the money is. So it would be less
It's based on our
per
school funding
officer if we
formula.
added, like if we added a Trenton officer in. So then it would be, I didn't go to math school, so don't look at me. So like 3,700 or something like that.
Well, I
Right.
can tell
It is
you,
what it is.
I can tell you on our end, and we discussed this, quite at length today, that we can pursue, we can look to see if there's any grants that we could obtain as the police department. I can tell you in my experience, my prior employee, we did receive grants, but our demographic was very different than the city of Trenton. So there are grants that are out there, both for the school district, and I would believe there would be a Safer Schools grant that we can apply. I think that still exists, but it is a conversation that I had with my staff earlier today, and we're going to look into that also, and we'll gladly share that information with you when we come across it. But I just wanted to be upfront with the school board about the extension for this year and my rising costs. And next year is a contract negotiation year for me. So I know what's going to happen then. The salary isn't going to go down.
That you can guarantee, right?
Well, I mean, if there's some money out there, I'd like for you guys to be able to tap into it. If
Yes.
there's anything on our side that we can help you with, we'll be glad to.
Because we're all in the same boat in regards
Yes.
to negotiations and financing and supporting our funds.
Yes, and I just wanted to be clear about the officer's assignment. He will be back starting this school year, and if there's not someone, I'm not going to put somebody in the school, and I've said this before, and I don't mean to be flippant. I'm not going to put somebody in the school that can fall the mirror. It's a very important job. There is no greater value, a thing of value that a family has other than their children. So I'm not just going to put somebody in that school just because they're in their uniform. I think we've all seen national media what can transpire when you don't have the appropriate person assigned to your school, and that's not going to. I will do everything I can to ensure that doesn't happen on my watch.
Appreciate that. Chief Carr, what kind of money are you thinking, just out loud, what kind of money are you thinking would make you whole from what we're paying you now?
Well, to be clear, and I'm okay with this, I don't know that you're ever gonna be able to make me whole based on what the hourly rate for a police department or a police officer is in the city of Trenton. However, we're about $10 below the county per hour, what you're reimbursing the county, paying the county compared to what you're paying the city of Trenton. It's about $10 less per hour, give or take, if my math is correct. We're okay right now. We're okay right now. I just want to make sure that we have the appropriate personnel in the schools. But I don't know that we could ever, and I don't know that I would feel comfortable necessarily ever saying you're going to pay me to the penny. But that's something discussed at a later time. That we can work that out. I'm certain we can work something out. I'm not trying to break anybody's bank, and I understand financial constraints. We all have.
I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate you coming here and talking to us about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm always available for a phone call. If needed.
Thank you, Chief.
Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no public participation tonight. Next, we're gonna move to treasure items. Mrs. Bowers, would you like to start?
Yes, first agenda item, I would like to ask for approval of the regular board meeting minutes from June 24th, 2024.
I'm gonna look for a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes of June the 24th.
So moved.
Mrs. Ashcraft, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Messerschmidt. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft?
Yes.
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard?
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the June 2024 financial reports as presented.
I'm looking for a motion to approve the June 2024 financial reports as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Ashcraft. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt?
Hold on just a second. I got
Sorry.
a question. So you got the actual numbers in here this year, just to make sure I'm looking at this correct. So you projected that we would be over by 1.4 million. We finished the year, according to this, at 2.2 million over. Am I reading that correctly?
Okay, we are looking at page 2, so the top section, FY24 general fund revenue. We projected at the beginning of the year that we would be at $43,145,000. The actual was $43,146,000, so we got $971 more than what we actually projected last year, 0.002% off. That's pretty good. The bottom there is the FY24 general fund expenditures. We projected we would spend $41,672,411. We actually spent $40,892,559. There's a difference there of $779,000. Again, we didn't buy a couple buses and we made some cuts, so we fell under. At the very bottom there, that over under, so the projected revenue, what we projected we were gonna get and what we projected that we were gonna spend was 1.4 million less. That's just the projections. The FY24 over under actual is like 2.2 million.
Pretty significant.
That's, yeah. Like I said, we've made a lot of cuts and we didn't buy a lot of things. Now, we know we have to do that moving forward. We've got some parking lots in pretty bad shape. We didn't buy those buses this year. We cannot do that again this year. We are hurting for buses.
That was my next question is this sustainable? But it doesn't sound like it is.
It's not. We did what we had to do to protect that general fund, but we have some pretty dire needs we have to address this year.
Well, that's great work what you guys were able to do, saving that kind of money when that's $1 million more than we thought we were gonna save, so.
Yeah,
good job.
I got a question. So I know when I first got on the school board, John Thomas kind of gave us a plan on roof repairs on all the buildings. And he had things figured out to where every year annually we would do a repair to certain sections of roofs on certain buildings to where over a long period of time they'd eventually all get replaced because we didn't have the money to be able to do it. Have we been keeping up with those repairs?
We have not. We
So that's
still
something
have
that might
that.
just
Put
hit
on
us.
hold. Yeah.
Yeah, alright.
That's one of many things that's gonna hit us if we don't start maintaining some things. We're gonna have to start.
Well, I know buses, roofs.
Yeah.
Parking lots.
If we don't maintain it, it's gonna cost us more money later on, so.
So that's why that's not sustainable
I
as far
agree.
as the savings.
So.
It was nice to have it.
Are we gonna have the money set aside for this coming school year to be able to start doing some of those things?
It's projected in the budget.
Is it projected?
I'm already working with the EPC to get quotes for 2 buses. I know that OASBO has advised that we come together and come up with a capital plan. I've mentioned that to Alicia Adams. We have to start working on that. We can use what John Thomas left for us, but we don't know what damage is already there. I think we're gonna have to go back and reassess. We've had some leaks, and just prioritize things. We can't get them all in one whack, obviously, but we've got a lot of work.
So we're just putting Band-Aids, like small repairs whenever
yes.
there's a leak and just keep.
Part of our financial plan was to try to reduce overtime, put all of those long-term projects on hold, just to stop the bleed.
But very much like you said, it's gonna cost us more in the long run when we do not fix these roofs that are leaking, because now it's coming down into the building and we're having other damage that we're having to have.
When do we think we'll start revisiting that plan? Is that something that's gonna start here pretty quick?
We will work on it in this school year. We've got a lot going on. We've got staff out right now, and our maintenance custodial staff, they're already doing some pretty big projects. We talked earlier today, we've got that elevator project going on. We've got HVAC unit that had to be completely redone in the medical building for $55,000. I just called Gary a few weeks ago for some major needs in our parking lots that we know that we have to do that. It's just, we gotta get school up and running. Recently, we've eliminated that, food service, position as well. We don't have that food service supervisor. Alicia and I are working on that. We've got that first training with, staff on Wednesday. And we're working on it. There's just so much to do to get school up and running.
We can do that. We can have that part of our, January organizational meeting, and certainly have Alicia do an update on where we are. And that would give her time to look at what the plan had proposed from John, what those new assessments would be, kind of where we are now, and what the new costs would be. We can certainly do that.
I don't mean to get us off track on the
Yeah.
elevator. What's the status of the elevator?
Alicia, you wanna speak to that?
Yeah, I to chime in just as a whole with this conversation, you know, I did have some companies coming in to look at the parking lots around the same time as when the elevator situation happened at DCC. So we prioritized the elevator, pushed off some of the other things that we were gonna work on. So, you know, that's just sort of how it goes. You know, we have a freezer that's out at the primary school right now. That's a priority because school starts in a couple of weeks, and we didn't have a freezer in our cafeteria. So we're just working through prioritizing the most important things right now. I do have John's plan that he left for us. We have a couple companies that we can work with that will come in and do a full facility assessment, from roofs to all of that, you know, all of that kind of stuff to help us with that 5-year plan. I've worked with John, talked to him about that. So like I said, we discussed that capital plan. We're in the process, we're gonna work through that. So, the elevator, they have the hydraulic jack out of the hole at EDCC. The hole was not cased, which is what they sort of assumed, just because of when it was installed. So it has to be re-drilled, the hole has to be re-drilled. So
Is that a warranty item by any chance?
No, it's like, no, it's too old. This is the only elevator that we have in addition that's this style, that has the hydraulic jack, this style underground. So, the American elevators that we're working with, the company that they use to drill is going to be in touch with us tomorrow to set up a date to come check it out, give us a price. That was not included in the original quote. So American Elevator doesn't do the drilling, they just do the hydraulic jack and the installation and the repair. So as soon as I get a quote on re-drilling that hole and getting that taken care of, they'll be able to set the new jack. Time frame is still to be done before the school year starts. So that is the goal, and that's still the plan.
When they re-drill this hole, are we gonna have it cased this time?
Yeah, you have to case it now. I mean, that's just the new,
Okay.
yeah.
Are they giving you like a ballpark on what this could cost?
The original quotes that discussed it, it depends. It depends on how bad the hole is when the guy comes. I don't know. I'd be off probably if I gave you a ballpark, but I will get that information to you guys as soon as I have it. I don't want to spitball.
Plus, it doesn't
number
include
out
the
there.
the casing you're discussing, right?
The re-drilling the hole, yeah. The casing is essentially just like a PVC tube that had a bottom that they stick in there. That they did not have that in there. It was just the jack that was in the ground. So when they poured it out, you know, some of that hole essentially caves in, and they have to clean that out.
Does American Elevator do the casing, or does this company do it all?
Yeah, I think American Elevator does the casing.
Okay.
basically you're asking for a proactive facility plan versus reactive. We've been talking about a lot of reaction here. We can get that together and have a presentation certainly by January.
I do think it's important that we've got a lot of stuff around here that needs work, and I don't think any of us truly appreciate just how big this is.
Well, it's kind of hard to be proactive when you have no money. You know, you kind of gotta be reactive.
But you can at least know where you are for the next 5 years. If we had money, what would this proactive plan look like?
Okay. Mrs. Bowers, would you call roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next agenda item, I would like to ask the board to approve a 10-cent increase for breakfast price. That would raise it from $1.75 to $1.85, and 10 cents for elementary and middle high school lunch.
I'm looking for a motion for the breakfast, lunch, and milk prices increase.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pressler. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next, I would like to ask the board to approve 2 donations, one of $19,458 from the Edgewood Athletic Boosters. That will go into the team accounts for each sport, and then a motion to approve a $1,000 donation from Tammy and Tim Hall for girls fast pitch softball.
Looking for a motion to approve the 2 donations, one from the Boosters and one from the Hall family.
So moved.
Mrs. Ashcraft, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Messerschmidt. It looks like, what's that come up to, like $40 per participant?
She gave me a spreadsheet on
I
that.
got it right here. It's about $40 per participant in each sport that they are participating in. So it actually comes, it's a pretty good amount of money depending on how many are involved in that particular sport. So we do appreciate that donation.
Very generous.
Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
There was actually 2 donations on there.
Yes.
Yes, from the whole family. Yeah.
And then we have Marty Hall.
Any more discussion?
No.
Very generous.
Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next agenda item is the MOU for the City of Trenton School Resource Officer.
Looking for a motion to approve the MOU for the Trenton Resource Officer.
So moved.
Mrs. Ashcraft, do I have a second?
A second.
Mr. Pressler. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next, I would like to block items F, G, and H. These are all special service contracts.
We'll look for a motion to approve the 3 special service contracts as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Yes.
Mrs. Ashcraft. Any discussion?
This healthcare, Patty, could you explain what that actually is?
Mrs. White, can you speak to these?
Both of these nursing contracts are for individual students who have home health care as well. Their home providers actually follow them to school, which is amazing for consistency of care. So we cover the portion when students are at school. We are only billed when the nurse comes to school with the student. So these are routine. We've had these students for years. These are the same rates as last year, and the same nurses coming with the students.
Are we able to recoup any of the money from this, from any kind of grants or from the state or anything like that?
We do recoup money through excess costs and catastrophic costs.
On average, what do you think the cost of this would be, outside of reimbursement?
I have no idea. Do you, Lindsay?
What was the question?
On average, what would the cost be outside of,
I don't know exactly what we get back through cat costs and excess costs, altogether, but I don't know the answer to that. What I would tell you is these are services that are written in IEP for a student, so these two students in particular have, high level medical fragility, and so they would not be able to come to school safely without having a nurse with them. And like I said, something I think we take pride in here is, you notice we have one with McLean, with Children's, with Maxim, we have a couple of different providers, but that's because those providers are with those children at home, and then they know them, they know their ins and outs, and they come to school with them, which is amazing.
It's great.
For parents and for the kids to really be able to thrive at school. And this isn't, it's not usual in other districts, nursing is like all over the place, and you might have someone someday and someone different another day, so we're very fortunate in that fact. It is expensive, very expensive, but I don't know exactly how much. I know some of these kids who are absent, like I said, we only get billed when they're here, so we budget like they're coming through the whole school year, hoping that they maintain health and can, but that isn't always.
The cost really doesn't matter, I mean, it's required, it's
let me
important,
just
so-
add really quick, so like our cat cost, excess cost, they run a year in arrears, so we actually, I can tell you, we've got $460,000 back in cat costs, so we work on that, and this year, for what happened last year. As far as the catastrophic cost, it's based on a percentage, so they take part of our state foundation, all school districts in Ohio, they dump it in a pot, if you will, and then they disseminate it back out to the school districts based on the severity of the needs, the number of special needs. You don't get all the money back that they take out. Some schools wind up getting more. It's just everything goes into a big pot based on the category of special needs students. So your MD students, you're gonna get a lot more than what you would for,
And obviously a student with a private nurse is gonna get more than.
yeah.
And I will tell you that takes months, literally months in the spring to go through every bit of that, but Patty and I spend a tremendous amount of time because we know, it's quite a bit of money and quite a bit of back.
Okay.
A lot of hours put into it.
Thank you for the explanation.
I just wanna follow up a little bit with a little deeper in detail with that. If these children have, this person is with them at home 24/7,
Sometimes,
when they're not at school, who pays for that?
their insurance.
Well, they're not insured, their insurance won't pay for it because they're at school, or,
Well, because it's a service that's required to be provided, like through
Legally.
government or like a state, basically, we are required to provide it.
okay. So it's covered until they come to school. Okay.
But we get their attendance, and we watch that very closely, so we don't pay when they're not there.
Any more discussion?
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbert.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next, I would like to block items I, J, and K. These are all curriculum needs.
I'm looking for a motion to approve I, J, and K, which are all curriculum driven.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pressler, discussion. Ask some questions.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So like annually, you know, I noticed that these are for 3 years. What would be like to continually purchase curriculum on a regular basis to stay in some sort of cycle? What would be like an estimated, well, I know this is probably a hard question to
I don't
ask.
think so, I think we're doing it, but go ahead.
Because I know like the one, we purchased some curriculum, and I think it was like $500,000 or something like that. But what would be if your dream as far as, you know, to be able to purchase curriculum every single year to stay in some sort of cycle, what would be that cost?
We are in a cycle, and we budgeted about $600,000 a year.
$500,000 to $600,000 a year. The one we bought that you're speaking of, Mr. Pressler, I think it's about 300,000 for the amplified reading. That's good for 6 years. So they seem like really big price tags, and they are, but that's not like yearly. So we won't revisit that particular purchase. Most curriculum companies now are selling in 6-year cycles. I don't know if they all have some big meeting somewhere that I don't know about and I didn't get invited to, but your like computer access or online access ends at 6 years. So we will be left with the hard copies of materials, and we've done that before for budgetary reasons. We've said, hey, we'll abandon the online access for a year or two because we like the stuff, but technically about every 6 years, and that's the cycle that we've gotten on. I think Mr. York before mentioned that they used to be on an 8-year, maybe even sometimes a 10-year. They almost had me locked into about a 6-year cycle. If we estimate or budget about $500,000 or $600,000 a year, that would allow for us to address all of our major core subjects, our social studies, our ELA, our math. We've started that already. We're actually in really good shape with most of our curriculum, and I know this body has pushed for this, and it really has helped. We're in pretty good shape on most of our stuff. There's some of it that is still dated. I know Science Fusion is a little bit dated in our elementary schools. They really, really love it, and they didn't want to abandon the student workbooks, and the teachers still feel like they're effective, so I'm kind of honoring their professionalism there and allowing them to still use it. However, last month you approved a new 6, 7, 8 science curriculum. So we were due to go 3 at 8. We only did 6, 7, 8. So we saved probably about $100,000 there that we were estimating to have to spend. So if that helps you understand a little bit.
And we budgeted $500,000 a year in our 5-year forecast, right, for curriculum?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I lost internet since we've been sitting here, but the history books, are those the same books that we bought a year or so ago?
No, they're so at the high school level, a lot of books will come in series. So like math, they call it AGA, algebra, geometry, algebra 2. And the high school for social studies, they'll come U.S. history, world history, and government. So U.S. government. 2 years ago, we just bought 2 of the 3. So this year we are buying I think it's government that's on there, or hope to, so that, and we're only getting 3 years instead of 6, so that we can make a decision to renew all 3 of those to get us on an appropriate cycle that's able to be budgeted a little bit better. That's not the same books. It's the 3rd prong of the high school series of social studies books is what it is. So ours are very, very dated, according to the staff. 12 years old. So these are replacing 12-year-old books.
And you think you're going to get 3 years out of them, and then we're going to look to...
No, what we'll probably do, because it won't be sunsetted, we'll probably be able to keep them because they're newer books, but we'll repurchase online access so they can still use the book, and we'll re-up the subscription for the online access.
As long as
So you
the
don't
state
always have to
doesn't
get the
change
hard
the
copy of the
curriculum.
book.
Is this enough where you'll have enough for all the students that?
Yes, yes. There's a cushion in there because over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, high school students tend to lose things. So that's enough to make up for some lost books and things like that.
Okay, I got a question. What is Success Maker?
Success Maker is it's a math adaptive software. What I mean by adaptive is when the student gets on it, it can either enrich or enhance the material or make it more difficult for the students who are excelling a little bit faster. It can also scale back or provide like remedial material to allow for students to experience some more success with previous content so that they can grow and learn the material. What that does, it's paired with our Envision Math. And again, the misalignment, why you're seeing some of this shotgunned out for 2 years and 3 years, is we are trying our best to get on a cycle. So when Envision Math expires, we will get that with the Success Maker. They're supposed to get on that about 3 days a week, anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes per day, to provide what the company would say their research-based ability for the students to be able to improve. They got to spend about 20 to 30 minutes at least 3 days a week in class.
So this is a license to?
Yes.
So it's software?
Assessment, yes, assessment
It's a
software,
math
sorry.
assessment
Yep.
software.
For what grades?
K to 8. They do not offer, well, they just started offering for 9th grade, and he wanted to know if we were interested, but I want to see somebody else kick the tires on that for a couple of years. So it's K to 8 for us.
So, I know you probably knew I was gonna ask this question, if you talk to teachers and everybody about this, is everybody aligned with wanting this?
If you look
I
at
can
math
give you a
scores, I can
2-minute
answer
answer, I can
no.
give you an hour sermon, or I can give you a quick 1-minute synopsis. When we rolled out Success Maker and Envision, it was right smack dab in the middle of COVID. We had seen a lot of improvement on our state testing.
Just so you know, I saw some heads shaking up and down behind.
Did
us.
you? I know. So you struck a nerve because I like curriculum, never thought I would, but I love it. So anyway, during COVID, we were piloting this for about 2 weeks, and the teachers were saying, oh my gosh, the content is so rich, we can't get to it all. It's just so much in here, it's rigorous. The reason why we decided to pilot it is because the only subjects we were not seeing the kind of gains that we wanted to see, it was math. And the math was really old. I can't think of the old math that was starting to lose. It was when Miss Beckett was here, maybe even before you. Math and Focus. Was it Math and Focus? The teachers talked horrible about that. So, when we decided to buy this, it was in the middle of COVID. We thought we needed it so bad. We're getting great feedback. We followed board policy to a T. We had a group of 20 teachers. 2 or 3 companies come in and present all the bells and whistles. They said, this is the one we want to pilot, we want to do. So we decided we're going to plow forward with Envision Math paired with Success Maker. As you can imagine, trying to get PD, trying to roll it out, to say it was clunkety would be an understatement. We were getting Zoom training for a K to 8 math program. So what I decided to do this year, along with some conversations we've had in cabinet, because we are still seeing weak math results, we are doubling down on this math curriculum that we have, because we have it for 3 more years. It's not going anywhere. And that's why I think you see there might be a PD quote on here. We're not going to get new stuff, but we'll get you training to use the stuff that we have. So to say that everybody supports it,
No.
you could flip a coin and say this one does and this one doesn't. So that's up in the air. But you can't flip a coin on whether or not we can bail on it.
But people
midway
are
through.
getting good results that are implementing it with fidelity.
We're going to double down on the implementation of this, make sure the teachers have the appropriate PD, make sure the principals are in the classrooms, making sure it's being implemented with fidelity, so that when we get to the end of the 3 years and we get another group of teachers together, we can make the best informed decision about whether we want to keep this or do we want to go in another direction. Because right now, I feel like I would be the guy making that decision, and I don't like that. I want there to be buy-in. So to be buy-in, we gotta double down and implement this, man, the way it's gotta be implemented.
But you are telling me that everything you're presenting tonight, the 3 things that you're asking us to vote on, there has been involvement with building principals and teachers at some point in the past.
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yes.
good enough for me.
Thank you.
The sermon was good though, by the way.
I can tell you got fired. You leaned up and
Yeah,
seen
he's like, "Oh, lean it up."
everything.
Offering bucket in the back.
Any more discussion?
No, sir.
Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. My last agenda item is a quote for Fitzwater Commercial Services.
Looking for a motion to approve the quote from Fitzwater Commercial Services for painting.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pressler.
What
This-
school is this for? Middle school?
Edgewood Intermediate School.
Okay.
It's where we had the paint peeling in the hallways, I guess, and they did some tests and found out what works, and they're gonna paint them all.
This is painting the entire inside of that building.
All the hallways.
The main hallway, and then it turns the corners on both ends to a certain point so that it matches up, and students line up and, you know, for lunch and restroom breaks and things, right along that sort of midsection and on the wall, as they lean against it and rub on it, you can get your fingernails under it and you can peel big hunks of it off. Over the course of the year, it just gets worse and worse. So like Mr. Gabbard said, we've had 4 companies come in. They offered a couple of suggestions. We had a quote upwards of $30,000-$40,000. This one, they tested a couple of different primers, a couple of different epoxy solutions, a couple of different things that, and then we went back in, we sort of dug at them, we tried to pick at them, and we think we've come up with something that'll last us longer than this. Historically, we've had to paint it every year. We're hoping that at least this can get us an extra year or 2 out of it before we have to redo the whole thing.
Price seems pretty fair to me.
And we went with this company. They've done things for us in the past. The last time that it worked, they were the company that did it. And that quote includes all labor and materials, the whole thing. A couple of the other quotes that we got, we were supplying the materials, and we were going to end up more than what this quote is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Mrs. Bowers, you call the roll, please.
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. That's all I have, Mr. Gabbard.
Thank you very much. Next, we have superintendent items.
Yes, I would like to recommend approval of item 6A, which is an overnight field trip for the girls golf team, and this trip's not until September 21st, 22nd.
Looking for a motion to approve the overnight field trip for the golf.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Ashcraft. Who's chaperoning this?
The Pressler, Mr. Tim Pressler is one.
Well, I appreciate his thoroughness in filling it out.
He did a
Yes.
very
He
good
really
job
did, he
filling
really
this
did.
out.
He's
You
pretty
know,
coached.
I might
Yeah.
just vote it down anyway, just because.
No, you won't.
Yeah, oh.
Any more discussion?
Oh.
Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
I'd like to propose items 6B and C. You had 19 policy revisions proposed to you from Neola based on legislative language needs. And then we also have a cell phone policy before us, which is recommended from our Governor DeWine. However, I'm recommending we implement it 1 year prior to the mandate.
I'm looking for a motion to approve B and C as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pressler. We've had first reads on all this. Any questions?
There were recommendations last month. Did you notice the changes?
So we are allowing phones on buses
Based
with
on-
earbuds, but they have to be silenced.
Does that say that in here? I looked for it.
It's at the very bottom, handwritten, at the very bottom, and this will all be up to Neola, will update it. It says cell phones are to be silenced on buses, earbuds are allowed.
Mine does not say that.
On more docs?
No.
Pass this down to the same so she can see it. Should say that.
Does yours say that?
I saw when I looked at it this morning.
Yeah.
I did see it at one time though.
It's not on there now.
It's not, something's got loaded wrong.
It was there.
Then I'm
I
asking
can
as
see it.
presented.
As amended.
Cell phones are to be silenced on the buses, earbuds are allowed.
It's on yours?
Yes.
It's not on mine? I promise.
It's not on mine either.
How is that possible?
Oh, no, she typed it in.
Where?
Cell phones are to be silenced on the buses, earbuds are allowed. It's typed in.
Well, I have the policy.
Oh yeah, I see it, it's on there. I was looking at the wrong spot. See where all the lines are? And that one paragraph has got everything lined out. It says right in the middle of that, cell phones are to be silenced on the buses. Earbuds are allowed, no cell phones are allowed out
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
to the school day.
I looked all over for it. I guess I just skipped over all those lines and missed it that way. Okay.
Speller, okay.
All right, Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
I'd like to propose grouping items 6D, E, and F pertaining to the high school dress code and elementary, secondary handbooks.
Looking for a motion to approve D, E, and F as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt,
amended.
do I have a second?
Mine says amended.
I did amend the handbook where you, were listed as the vice president. I did amend that.
Okay, so is that what the amendment is?
Yes.
Okay.
Second. Mr. Pressler? Any discussion?
So the high school dress code, it says in here, updated and more clearly defined. Is that what did you do some work on that to make it more specific?
So yes, if I could talk, so we met with students 4 times, twice in May, and staff, and then twice in July to review this dress code. We looked at dress codes around the area, we said, what do we like, what don't we like about that, and we came up with this dress code to better fit our students' needs, and knowing, for example, that for female students dress, sometimes their shirts are cut in a way, so now that we had some staff members that would dress code right away if they saw any part of their flesh before the belly button, and now saying that their belly button up has to be covered. We had a very productive meeting with student government and our building.
So we're gonna they weren't allowed to wear hats last year, is that correct? Is that
That is new. The students wanted that freedom of hats, and we had a rich conversation about that too. And as long as they can see their face and their eyes, that was something that we noticed that the students wanted. Staff said it was easy. You can tell if a students look at their cell phone because the building captain's gonna rat them out.
I'm fine with that.
I'm glad you include students in that
It
discussion.
was great. It was great.
I think it's awesome.
Yep. I mean,
That's the way it's supposed to work.
Any more discussion?
No, sir.
Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Superintendent update, I'd like to be very quick. We have a recommendation that will be coming before the board after executive session, and it's a recommendation for our latest assistant principal at the high school. Very pleased to announce and introduce to our public as well as the board, Mr. Caleb Vanden, is it Enden? Vanden Enden. Thank you, Caleb. Caleb's coming to us with only 4 years of teaching experience, but he has had a wealth of information as a band director, kindergarten through 12th grade teacher in the Oakwood district. He grew up and graduated from the Lakota School District, so he's very familiar with Butler County. I believe he even shared that his mother was a former teacher and his grandfather was a former superintendent. So he's been raised among the ranks of the education jargon. But I just want to say, Caleb, we're so pleased that you want to join Edgewood. I wanted everybody to have a face with a name. I really am thrilled for Mr. Gagan. He's got a very competent team. He has 2 new assistants this year. One's coming very heavily with core academic understanding, student achievement understanding, and Caleb's coming in with a real great vibe on school environment and that whole positivity and building relationships, and I just think it's going to be a perfect trio. So I'm thrilled, and I'm thrilled to make this presentation tonight. I just want to say I can't wait to see what this high school transpires to become. And I just have to say, you have your new bride with you, so not only are you getting a new job, you just was recently married and only been a few weeks, so nice to have both of you here with us this evening.
Great. Yes. Congratulations. Well, hope you get approved tonight.
Now don't scare him. Don't scare him. He's even moving this direction. He's got a lot on the line here. So, all right. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. Well, we're very excited to have you. And next on my informational item, just want to thank our certified and classified union teams, we've had some successful negotiations, very thrilled what we have been able to accomplish there, so just wanted to put a plug there. And just let the board know and our public know that we've been working very diligently on completing and filling staff for this year, but also our professional development. We have several professional development days next year. Some of them are for the building, some are for the district. And I know that our very first professional development day in August, we have with some curriculum information, we have a guest speaker coming in just talking about the importance of a positive environment and how what we do sets up the learning for our kids. So excited about that. And then in November, we're going to be working with our buildings on safety and that whole reunification, the importance of practicing reunification if you ever have to leave your building and evacuate, with the expectation that our buildings will practice that sometime during the year. So really excited that we have the days to do this. I want to thank the board for that. Our staff also, to complete a mandate in Ohio, have to complete, depending on their area of licensure, including superintendent all the way down to preschool teachers, we have to complete a science of reading certification. So depending on your licensure, that's anywhere from 9 hours up to 22, 23, or 24, 20-something hours. And it's also not only a mandate that you get this certification by the end of the school year, but our school district has to fund our teachers for that work, and it has to take place outside of the school year, or outside of the school day, excuse me. So, Elisa, would you say about, I know I finished mine, but about how many staff members have been certified so far?
I would think about 25%.
So that's pretty good. So basically we put out information saying if you are certified by November 1st, you'll get your pay for that stipend that's mandated then. And then the other cutoff is in March. Now by contract, we need to make sure our staff are appropriately licensed and certified before assigning them. So although the mandate says you have till June, really for staff assignments, we only have till the end of March. So we really wanted to get that information out to our staff and work on that. So, and as I've been interviewing some candidates this summer, some districts haven't even started that, so I'm pretty thrilled. So thanks to our team, our cabinet, for working on that. And let's see, we are meeting with our leadership team on August 1st to start working on our expectations and goals for the year. And my first superintendent update will go out to the public on August 2nd. New teacher orientation is August 8th. And then I certainly want to invite the board to participate. Our staff returns on August 12th, yet our first day back as a whole district together at the middle school is August 14th. I'd certainly like to invite you in. We'll have a small breakfast at 7:30 and a guest speaker on that morning and a full day schedule. So certainly want to make note of that and invite you to that session. And then a shout out to our summer cleaning team. Lisa Adams, thank you for organizing all of our custodians and the work with our maintenance, with our big projects, and our custodians. I think they've been working hard. Been impressed with the work I've seen so far. That concludes my informational items this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Spade. Next, we have information items for board members. Mr. Messerschmidt, would you like to start?
Yes, sir, I would. So, out of respect for Amy, I'm not going to say anything about the fair.
Thank you.
Is that this week?
Yes.
Is that this week?
But I will recognize my good friend Jackie Ponder and all the work that she put into supporting the FFA corn sale last weekend. She put a lot of work into that and appreciate what she did. And then Kelly, you talked a little bit about this is our last board meeting before school starts. So for all of your staff and people who were here day in and day out over the summer, thank you for all that you did, and just would like to wish our students, our parents, our teachers, and our staff a safe first day of school and a very prosperous year.
We're looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Messerschmidt. Mrs. Ashcraft.
Thank you. Well, since you already know what I'm going to say. The Butler County Fair is this week, so get out and support those Edgewood kids. There's lots of them showing. And tomorrow, it just so happens that at the pork producers booth, the Edgewood FFA gets all of the money from that. So if you feel like a pork chop, go there and get it.
Or working, they still need volunteers.
Yeah, they
right?
still do need volunteers, so if you have time between, what did we say?
10 and 2 and 2 and 4, I think you said.
Yeah, so, yeah. They just need an adult supervisor, so if you have time, that's a very beneficial program here at Edgewood, for the FFA and the kids that are in that program. So, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Ashcraft. Mr. Pressler?
Thank you, Mark.
Nothing? Thank you, Mr. Pressler.
It took me all night to think of what I was gonna say. That's all I got.
I'll just kind of hit over what they've already talked about. We do have a lot of our students at the Butler County Fair showing this week. We've got a lot of people that's behind the scenes that's worked all summer, and we do appreciate all that. Enjoy your next 3 weeks because it's over. So, at this time, I'm gonna look for a motion to move to executive session.
So moved.
To consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and compensation of an employee or official. So, Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Ashcraft. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. It is 7:21.
8:58, we are back. Our last item will be personnel items. I'm looking for a motion to approve the 2024-25 classified salary schedules.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Ashcraft. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Item B will be personnel items also, administrative, certified, classified, exempt, and supplemental nominations, section 1. As presented. Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second? Mrs. Ashcraft. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
We're gonna stay on section B, and it would be item B, section 2.
So moved.
Mrs. Ashcraft, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Messerschmidt. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Abstain.
What did you do the last time?
Next, we're gonna do the treasurer's contract as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, God.
Mr. Pressler. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
We'll look for a motion to adjourn this evening.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt.
Second.
Mrs. Ashcraft. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pressler.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. It is 9 o'clock.